everybody, Merry December. How are we today? So welcome back to my channel. My name is Boomy, everybody, and today I would like to share another history video with you. I feel like I've had a bit of a break from doing a lot of history videos, and I've missed them very, very much. Like I say, I am a history enthusiast, and I'm learning an awful lot about American history in particular. It's very, very interesting. I've said a few times, I have learned quite a bit about American history during my high school years. It's not a common topic for a lot of schools in the UK. I think we were quite fortunate actually to study this in our GCSEs. It was one of our modules, our topics, and it was so interesting. So it set off a love of American culture and history, and I'm going to follow it up, guys. So we have another video here. And this video has come as a request from Justin. Thank you very much, my friend, and thank you for your support. And Justin says, "Hi, Boomy. I hope things are going well for you." They are, thank you. And you, Justin, I hope you're all doing well. I think you would enjoy this video. It's information about language and history related to Native American contributions to World War II. Fascinating. So ironically, the US government tried to force the assimilation of Native Americans and the destruction of their language, culture, and religion for many decades. I think it possibly could have been longer than that, couldn't it, Justin? But it was the language that helped win the war. So very, very ironically, yes, it's quite a dark era. Well, not an era, it's very dark part of American history, isn't it? I knew there was a Native American language that was used as code to communicate throughout the World War II, but I didn't know that it was, is it Navajo? So let's crack on with the video, guys. Yes, so it says Navajo, the secret language that helped win World War II, Navajo code language. I think, there we go. So let's check this video out, guys. And as ever, if you're enjoying these reactions, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, my lovelies. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account. The link is over here. And should you want to support this channel any further, I have a Patreon account. If you want to check that out, that would be amazing. The link is in the description below.
When your language is your weapon, you had better be good at it, especially when it's in secret code and your enemies have code cracking machines like this one. But the Navajo code is the one wartime code that was never ever broken, stumping even the most genius cryptanalysts out there. But what exactly is the Navajo code? And why was it uncrackable? And who were the code talkers anyway? Get comfy, I've got a cracking story for you.
Okay, I already did that cracking story for you. So I'm going to hazard a guess and say, I think this language being used as a code would have been particularly difficult for the enemy to decipher, because it's not got a root language that the rest of the world are familiar with. So, you know, our languages and European languages are heavily rooted in Latin with a bit of Greek, aren't they? Some of us maybe Norse. But yes, so it would have been an absolute enigma to European countries to try and decipher this code. That's my guess. Maybe it's got something to do with it.
During wartime, troops and allies have to communicate on the battlefield, but the problem is the enemy is always listening in, and if secrets fall into the wrong hands, well, I think you know. And sooner or later, every single war code was broken. Enter code talkers. A code talker was a person employed by the military to send encrypted messages on the battlefield using their indigenous language, and only the Navajo were successful. But as with all epic stories, it began quite innocently. In the 1890s, there was a small boy called Philip Johnston who learned to speak Navajo so well that the tribe came to rely on him to interpret for them. His dad was a missionary who was fighting to protect the rights of the Navajo to keep their land, and Philip grew up playing with Navajo kids on a reservation, learning their language and customs. They called him the Understander, and word got around. Young Philip became so fluent in Navajo that at age 9, he was asked to do all the translating and interpreting between the Navajos and a certain President Theodore Roosevelt. That's right, 9 years old.
That is quite a responsibility for a 9-year-old, isn't it, guys? And there's a lot that can happen between, mistranslation and not knowing the context of certain things, especially at the age of 9. You're so young. is that 9-year-old going to have like a knowledge of the context of some of the things that are being asked to be translated? And there's so many pitfalls. I think I find the origin of language is very, very interesting, but I think it's very easy to see where mistranslations come from, you know, especially with languages where one word can have a number of different meanings and it heavily relies on the context. Just as an example.
Fast forward to adulthood and World War II. Philip Johnston was already a World War I veteran when he read a newspaper article about an armoured division in Louisiana that was trying to come up with an unbreakable code for tactical radio and telephone communications using Native American languages. And Philip knew the perfect language for that, so he told the US Marine Corps about it. They had their meetings, they got their concerns out, and then the deal was done. They decided to give his idea a try. And so a few hundred young Navajo men would be trained as code talkers. Of course, there was a field test first. I mean, these guys would be delivering actual combat messages. So 4 Navajos were asked to encode, transmit, and decode a message in 20 seconds. And they did it almost verbatim. These guys also proved that they could send messages under stress from planes, tanks, or fast-moving positions. So the game was on. The pilot project would need 30 Navajos to be trained as code talkers, and Philip was allowed to enlist them and to participate as well. But hold on a sec, there are hundreds of Native American languages. Wouldn't any of them do? No.
Do you know, I was just thinking this. I was thinking, what are the special traits or characteristics of Navajo which made this the language that was used? Oh my gosh, he said that these Navajo soldiers were trained to be able to decipher and interpret these messages under stress, such as, you know, like planes going overhead or, you know, gunfire. I don't know about anyone else, but when I get very, very kind of frightened or worried, I go deer in headlights mode, like, and I just freeze and nothing works, brain fog. So I have a huge appreciation for anyone who can operate and keep so calm and cool under pressure. I absolutely cannot. So, woof, I mean, fair play.
And here's why.
I think that one reason why they picked the Navajos to use the code during the war was because it is real hard to understand.
Languages like Cherokee and Comanche had already been used for coding during World War I, but after the war, both Germany and Japan sent students to the US to study Native American languages. Quite cunning, and no wonder the US was nervous. They were afraid that the code would easily be cracked, but that was before they learned about the convoluted nature of the Navajo language. Thing is, the Apache Navajo languages belong to an entirely different language family from the Amerindian languages. Navajo was even unknown among other tribes. In fact, it's not even mutually intelligible with its closest relatives in the Nadini family. Never mind the fact that the Navajo were living a very isolated existence in their ancestral lands out in Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, and foreigners never even knew about them. But all of this meant it was almost impossible for outsiders to not only discover, but to learn Navajo. And there's more. The Navajo alphabet was only finished in 1939. So writing in Navajo was still a brand new thing, and there was absolutely nothing written or printed that would be useful to an enemy. Even the first community newspaper was only printed in the mid-40s. And I have to say, this really is language heaven for me. What do you think? Did we make a video entirely on Navajo? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Yes.
Now I know you're excited to see how...
Oh, just before we move on. Okay, so that makes sense. A lot more sense now as to why Navajo was used. So there's a lot more variations, a lot more languages, indigenous languages, that are more widely spoken. And yes, if the Japanese and I forget, was it the Germans, they were sending students over to learn more about those native languages. Okay, it makes sense, it makes sense.
How the Navajo code works, but hold your Appaloosa. We should first see how the language itself works. It is quite difficult to classify Navajo linguistically because of how unique it is. It's full of extraordinary sounds that your English-speaking mouth has probably never made before. Guttural sounds, nasal sounds, breathy glottal stops. One crucial feature that made Navajo harder to decipher was that it's a tonal language. Depending on pronunciation, a Navajo word can have 4 distinct meanings, and this adds a whole new dimension to figuring out secret messages. You can get a visual idea from these accent marks.
Yeah,
There is an alphabet now, obviously, and it has 33 consonants and 12 vowel sounds. And these vowel sounds can be either short, long, or what's called overlong. As for vocabulary, do you think you can just learn the names of a few things in Navajo? Well, good luck, because the formation and meaning of words is really complex. For one, many concepts that most languages express as nouns are actually verbs in Navajo. That's right, it's not about what a thing is, but what a thing does. So something like an army tank, for example, is named with a descriptive sentence.
Helicopter.
It's a type of agglutination, but it relies so heavily on affixes that are joined in unpredictable overlapping ways.
I find this absolutely amazing. It's so difficult to comprehend other languages that operate differently than, you know, to the language that you've grown up speaking. So in the English language doesn't have any of this, does it really? It doesn't rely on tone. It relies very, very strictly on the meaning of words. And I suppose there's a handful of words, or more than a handful, where they have like a dual meaning, and you've got to understand the context to understand the meaning. But I don't think the language relies so heavily on it, like I imagine other languages do. And it's so interesting, because you struggle to understand it because you're so used to like the way that your language operates. I'm not making any sense. I know what I mean.
Ways that you end up with these super long sentence words. I actually looked up the word articulation in 3 Navajo dictionaries and got this. If you speak Navajo, please break that sentence down for us. Incredible and somewhat mind-numbing, but you will see in a minute how they made it work for the code language. Another interesting Navajo feature is animacy. Now, animate nouns are things that have life in them, whereas inanimate nouns are things that don't. And there's a whole hierarchy system for this concept. I wonder where ghosts fit in. Navajo also uses an uncommon point of view called the fourth person, which lets you address someone without naming them, because names have power. Kind of like when we say, one would think. And if one is enjoying this video, perhaps one could click these 3 buttons.
If one wouldn't mind.
So how did the Marine Corps recruit Navajo speakers? Well, they started off by employing 30 bilingual Navajo men. These guys were recruited as US Marines. They went to boot camp, combat training, all of that stuff. One of the guys quit, so there were just 29 left. After basic training, they moved to Fleet Marine Force Training Center at Camp Elliott. And this is where they did intense special courses for message transmissions and radio operation. Philip Johnson himself described it as an extremely intensive 8-week messenger training course. And of course, they had a very important job to do. The first group of 29 Navajo, plus 3 others who joined them, would create the legendary Navajo Code. By the end of the war, the Marine Corps had employed 540 Navajos for service, most of whom became code talkers. And you're going to get to hear some of these veterans talking later on. Okay, so the first task was to create a foolproof code using the Navajo language as a base. The door was locked, literally, and they focused. Teamwork, turns out, was second nature to the Navajo. Now, previous war codes using native languages had consisted of between 20 and 250 terms, but these Navajo guys figured out a really complex code with over 600 terms. And it wasn't just word-for-word translations, as you're going to find out. The enemy's code experts were going to get an earful of sounds they'd truly never heard before. Just think about this for a moment. You have this unknown language that's already going to be a nightmare for enemies to translate just by itself, and then that language gets twisted into something cryptic. I mean, it really is quite brilliant. Even the other tribe members back home didn't know what this coded vocabulary meant. And it was...
There would be no way of breaking this code. Like the narrator here has said, it's already a language that statistically, you've not heard before. So good luck trying to fathom out any of this language, because you've definitely never heard it. But not only that, it's then further it's mutated into a code. So like he says, even if you spoke the language, you still wouldn't understand the code. I'm not surprised. It was just unfathomable. Uncrackable.
Fast. With this system, the code talkers could translate 3 lines in 20 seconds. Compare that to the existing code breaking machines that took about 30 minutes to translate 3 lines. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you exactly how the code worked, which is super interesting. But speaking of code breaking, one of the reasons I was so fascinated in this topic is that code breaking is not too dissimilar to the way that I teach languages myself. So I teach languages through stories, and the method is a bit like code breaking in a way, where I give you a simple story in the language suitable for your level and show you how to break the code, as it were, or in other words, understand the code of the language. By teaching
At my level, trying to teach me, it would just be like, apple. Boomy, listen, apple. Say it with me. I do have a great appreciation for the people who have a mind for languages. I unfortunately do not. I have never been able to master another language. I can speak very basic, poor French, not very good Spanish. Teachers have tried, believe me, but I think it's amazing. People that are bilingual, that you can, even just on a quite a small level, you can go into a country and just get by, even just on a holiday, with, you know, like a handful of phrases. I can't even do that. I try.
this way, you learn
Or
the
math
language in a
brain.
supernatural way, which is also very fun because you're reading stories, and very different from all that memorizing of grammar rules that you probably remember from school. Anyway, if you'd like to learn more about how to learn a language with stories, or story learning as I call it, then you should download my story learning kit and find the link in the description. The story learning kit is completely free. It's a collection of video masterclasses, audio guides, printable worksheets, and it will show you step by step how story learning works, so that you can decide if it's a method that you would like to try to learn a new language. Again, it's completely free, and you can find a link in the description. So, do you want to see how the Navajo code worked? The Navajo code primarily used word association. So a Navajo word would be assigned to key phrases and military tactics. And I'm going to show you some of the exact words that they used. Now, the Navajo never actually had in their language any word for military ranks and equipment. I mean, why would they? So to start off with, they had to agree on special code references for those things. For example, a submarine became an iron fish.
Beshlo
A fighter plane
Special.
was a hummingbird.
Tahitihi.
And an observation plane, well, let's hear about this one directly from a veteran.
An observation plane carries no armament, doesn't pick a fight, just goes out and observes, and usually flies at night. And so we took those characteristics and said, well, those characteristics fit characteristics of an owl. Does very much the same thing. So the code word for observation plane became Nashja, which is owl.
But that is just the start of it. I have here the declassified Code Talkers Dictionary here. Shall we take a look inside?
Yes.
The initial code consisted of 211 vocabulary terms, which grew to 411 words over the course of the war. This was called Type 2 code. Type 1 code was an alphabet system. Have a look at this.
Shash. Ayat in. Be'andetihe. Bestot leji.
Every English letter got an English word beginning with that letter. So here, B is bear, and then the English word was translated into Navajo. And then that Navajo code word represented the English letter. Do you see what I mean?
Shash.
It seems simple enough, but there were actually 2 or 3 options for most letters, which made it even more secure as a code because it was harder to figure out the patterns. And code breakers, well, they love patterns. Think of those letters that we repeat often, like vowels, or letters that can be doubled up in English, like P or L or M. You could use 2 different Navajo words for double letters. So B might be bear, but it could also be badger
Nahaj it.
or barrel.
Twishje.
And there were 78 of these letter substitutions to memorize in the end. And just to throw in a dash of trickery, for some words you would need understanding of Navajo culture. So for example, one of the words for D normally translates as ghost,
Edi.
but it refers specifically to anything that was bad about the person who died. So the coders used it for devil instead. Organizations and officers got names. So battalion became the Navajo word for red soil.
Trechini.
Lieutenant colonel was the word meaning silver oak leaf.
Chech el betra. Beshlagay.
Even countries got their own names, some of them not altogether politically correct. So I'm just going to show you a handful here.
Ehlagay. The bedeni.
India was the word meaning white clothes. Philippines was floating island, and you can use your imagination for the rest. But then they threw in some randoms that weren't descriptive, but phonetic, like Spain, which was the word meaning sheep pain, Spain. This is pretty fun, isn't it? It must have been quite a laugh to put this code together. Airplanes and ships had quite descriptive names, and months of the year were also pretty cool. February, squeaky voice. June, big planting. November, big wind. Then there
He says they must have had such a laugh putting this code together. I'm thinking headache. Not so much great fun, but this sounds like it would have been an absolute headache of a chore. But you know, maybe they had a good time with it. For someone like me who does struggle with other languages as well, oh my gosh, I can appreciate it. Oh my gosh, the time that must go into it. But source of entertainment versus headache.
Was a really long list of useful words like these ones. These are all the type 2 code that I mentioned before, by the way. A few words like ambush and ammunition just took the actual Navajo translation, so there clearly wasn't just one rule with how the code works, which is pretty clever. And all of these words, remember, had to be carefully memorized. So I don't want to hear anyone complaining about learning vocabulary in your language ever again, okay? Now, would you like to see what kind of secret messages were sent? Of course you do.
Yes.
In Iwo Jima, a company of Marines were in serious trouble in their foxholes, being fired on with mortars from 3 different directions. So what desperate SOS message did they send?
Ana achipi dati tahi de na sonse taji kochin sita sa ta asta na ki shash. What does that mean? This is what he said in Navajo. Sheep, eyes, nose, deer, destroyer, tea, mouse, turkey, onion, sick horse, 3, 6, 2, bear. As each Navajo word came through the air, the code talker down at the beach command post, he writes it down in English. What did he write down? Send demolition team to Hill 362B.
Just like that, the message sent to the beach command post took 20 seconds to decode, and the Marines were rescued very quickly. Had it been
Guys, are you as blown away right now as I am? Just every part of this, everyone who plays their part, I think is amazing. Should I have been the person listening to this and trying to, well, just to begin with, I think I would mishear. Half of those words, I would be thinking, oh gosh, it might have been that one, but it could have been this one. I'm not really sure. And I would write down the wrong word, and having to do that in 20 seconds. It's nothing short of absolutely amazing. My brain does not work that quickly. And they've got so much more to do, and the enormity of it, the pressure, the responsibility. I hope every single one of these gentlemen here that participated in this received medals and honours, because the responsibilities that they had, that it's just absolutely amazing. Can you imagine if we didn't have these soldiers that were able to do this? I just don't want to think about it.
Been sent in English code, the message would have taken 30 minutes to decode, and they would not have survived. So what was it like being a code talker? Well, it was exciting and definitely very dangerous. Code talkers were an obvious target because they were relaying critical information and warning troops about the enemy. The men were taught how to use different types of radio equipment, make repairs in the field, run telephone lines from tree to tree. They worked in pairs. One on the front line, one behind the lines, communicating over radio or telephone. They were given a message in English, and then without writing it down, they translated it and sent it to another code talker. There were no code manuals. They had to memorize everything. I mean, this was war. There was no way that they could risk the enemy finding something in a pocket and breaking the code. Each message read aloud by code talker was also immediately destroyed. But what's more, they had to keep changing position in order to be safe. Can you just imagine what that must have been like?
I like being a code talker very much, very, very much.
Really?
It's something that nobody ever tried to break it. It's never been broken.
Yeah, and another former Navajo code talker, Joe Morris Sr. said, "My weapon was my language. We saved a lot of lives." But it was also bilingualism saving them, if you think about it. I don't know about you, but I am feeling very grateful right now to know more than one language.
Yes, you're very lucky. It's a very, very handy skill. What a lovely thing to say. That it was because of your language and your heritage. Oh my, like the pride. Oh, I love it. It's absolutely amazing. The first gentleman here, he said he loved being one. I think I would be overwhelmed by the stress of it. They're obviously made of much harder stuff than I am. I'm a wimp. But Oh my gosh. So they enjoyed being a code breaker. They loved it.
The Code Talkers were part of every major Marine operation in the Pacific, which gave the Marines a critical advantage in the war. During the nearly month-long battle for Iwo Jima, for example, 6 Navajo Code Talker Marines worked around the clock for 2 days, sending more than 800 messages without error. If it weren't for them, the Marines would never have taken Iwo Jima. So it just goes to show how powerful language can really be. The Japanese did actually capture a Navajo soldier called Joe and force him to translate coded messages, but because Joe wasn't a code talker, the messages to him just sounded like nonsense, and so the Navajo code remained unbroken even after the war ended. Now, believe it or not, the world didn't even hear about the Navajo code until 1969. You see, after the war, all of the Navajo code books were burned, and the secret of the Code Talkers was hidden for another 24 years, which is a very long time to keep a secret. It took America long enough, but eventually in 2001, the Navajo veterans received the Congressional Gold and Silver Medals engraved.
That's such a long time. Oh, they should have been awarded it so much sooner. Was it kept secret for such a prolonged amount of time? Maybe this sounds very naive, I'm guessing. Is it because maybe there was a threat that they would need to use the code again and releasing information to essentially the rest of the world? And we're all better communicated these days, aren't we? It's a small world now. You know, it's no longer a secret once it's out there, isn't it? So do you think that's why it took so long for the rest of the world to become aware of the Navajo code? That's a long time. I knew that there was, like I say, I knew there was a Native American language that was used in World War II, but I didn't know it was Navajo.
With this message, with the Navajo language, they defeated the enemy.
DEESIDE. Yeah, na yeah,
and if you want to know how modern military men and women learn languages, well, you should watch this video. It tells the story of the modern day US military language training operation. Literally heaven on earth for anyone looking for an intensive language learning program. And I'm still trying to figure out a way for the likes of you and me to get in.
Oh, that sounds handy, doesn't it, guys? Maybe that's the only way I'll learn a language. Just intense military training. It might work, it might. Others have tried. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely amazing. Like I keep saying, I have no end of admiration for people who can not only speak more than one language. It's hard. Like, I just think it's so difficult, and for people who master it, it's absolutely amazing. But to go like this is just on a whole nother level. Creating that code in the first place, it absolutely blows my mind. It's absolutely amazing. So eternally grateful, that makes no sense. Eternally grateful to the Navajo soldiers who were able to formulate this code, and their efforts in the war are just amazing. I feel like they should have had all of these acknowledgements and medals a lot earlier. We owe them so much, guys. But yes, oh my gosh, thank you, Justin, for requesting this video. It's so unbelievably interesting. I hope you guys have found this as interesting as I have, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video along with me. Mind been blown for the rest of the day. Well, guys, much love. Mwah. Take care of yourselves for now, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.